Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching the stars through the large viewing window. His ship was patrolling near the edge of human space, checking on the outer colonies like they did every month. It was supposed to be a quiet mission, nothing more than showing the flag and making sure everything was running smoothly. The communication panel suddenly lit up with an urgent signal from Earth. Jake walked over and pressed the accept button. Admiral Lisa Carter's face appeared on the screen, and Jake could see the worry in her eyes right away. "Jake, we have a serious problem," she said without any greeting. "The Galactic Council has just issued something called the Terran Containment Protocol. As of today, humanity is banned from expanding beyond our current 47 star systems." Jake felt his stomach drop. The Galactic Council was made up of 12 alien species that had been running the galaxy for thousands of years. When humanity first met them 50 years ago, everything seemed friendly enough. The aliens said they wanted peace between all species, and humans believed them. "What's their reason?" Jake asked, though he was already getting angry. "They say we're too aggressive and unpredictable," Admiral Carter replied. "They claim we're a threat to galactic stability. The Council thinks we expand too fast and make too many alliances with other species." Jake knew this was nonsense. Sure, humans had spread to 47 star systems in 50 years, but that was because they worked hard and were good at solving problems. Other species took hundreds of years to do the same thing. And yes, humans like to make friends with different alien species instead of following the Council's strict rules about who could talk to whom. But that wasn't a crime. "There's more," Admiral Carter continued. "Council enforcement ships are already moving to patrol our borders. Any human ship that tries to leave our space will be stopped. Any colony ship will be destroyed." The word "destroyed" hit Jake like a punch to the gut. He thought about his younger brother Ryan, who was serving as second in command on the colony ship New Horizon. They were carrying 50,000 people to start a new world in the Kepler system, right at the edge of human space. "Admiral, the New Horizon is out there right now," Jake said quickly. "They're supposed to reach Kepler 442b in 3 days. Admiral Carter's face went pale. "I've been trying to contact them for 2 hours. No response. I'm sending you their last known position. Get there as fast as you can." Jake turned to his crew. "Navigation. Plot a course for the Kepler system. Maximum speed. Engineering. Give me everything the engines can handle." The Defiance jumped to faster-than-light travel, racing through space toward Jake's brother and 50,000 innocent people. Jake spent the next 6 hours pacing the bridge, checking their progress every few minutes. His crew could see how worried he was, but nobody said anything. They all knew about Ryan Morrison. When they finally dropped out of light speed near Kepler 442b, Jake's worst fears came true. Floating in space were the broken pieces of what used to be the New Horizon. Emergency beacons were still flashing, but the ship was completely destroyed. "Life signs?" Jake asked, though he already knew the answer. "None, sir," his scanner officer replied quietly. "The ship was hit by multiple energy weapons. No survivors." Jake stared at the wreckage, thinking about Ryan and all those families who just wanted a new home. The Galactic Council had murdered them all just to make a point. 2 sleek alien ships appeared on their screens. Jake recognized them as Zephyrian vessels, with their crystal-like hulls that sparkled in the starlight. The Zephyrians were one of the most powerful species in the Council, and they clearly didn't like humans very much. "Human vessel," came a cold voice over the radio. "You are in violation of the Terran Containment Protocol. Leave this system immediately, or face destruction." Jake wanted to fight. Every part of him wanted to attack those ships and make them pay for what they had done. But the Defiance was just one ship, and the Zephyrians had weapons that could cut through human shields like paper. "This is Captain Morrison of the UES Defiance," he replied, keeping his voice steady. "We're conducting a rescue operation. The New Horizon had 50,000 civilians aboard." "The New Horizon violated Council space," the alien replied. "Their destruction was necessary to enforce the containment protocol. You have 10 minutes to leave this system." Jake looked around at his crew. They were all watching him, waiting to see what he would do. He could see the anger in their eyes too. These people had families and friends who might have been on that colony ship. "Helm, take us home," Jake said finally. He hated giving that order, but getting his crew killed wouldn't help anyone. As the Defiance turned away from the wreckage, Jake made a promise to himself and to his dead brother. The Galactic Council thought they could bully humanity into staying, quiet and small. They thought they could murder 50,000 people and get away with it. They were wrong. Back on Earth, President Amanda Stone held an emergency meeting with her top advisors. The official response would be diplomatic protests and requests for negotiations. But Jake knew, and everyone else knew, that wouldn't be enough. Aliens had made their position clear. They didn't want humanity to grow or explore or make new friends among the stars. They wanted humans to stay in their little corner of the galaxy and be grateful for what they had. But humans had never been good at staying quiet when someone tried to push them around. The Galactic Council was about to learn that the hard way. Jake stood in his quarters that night, looking at a picture of him and Ryan from their academy graduation. His brother had always said that the best thing about humans was that they never gave up, even when the odds were impossible. "They think they've contained us," Jake said to the picture, "but they've just made us angry. And angry humans are the most dangerous thing in the galaxy." Outside his window, Earth hung in space like a blue jewel. It looked peaceful and small, just like the Council wanted it to stay. But Jake knew that looks could be deceiving. Humanity was about to show the galaxy what they were really made of. 2 years had passed since the Galactic Council destroyed the New Horizon. On the surface, it looked like humanity had accepted their fate. Human ships stayed within their assigned borders, and Earth's government kept sending polite messages, asking for negotiations that never came. But beneath the surface, something else was happening. Dr. Elena Rodriguez worked late into the night in her secret laboratory hidden deep under the mountains of Colorado. She was studying pieces of alien technology that had been quietly collected from crashed Council ships over the past 2 years. What she had discovered would change everything. "The energy shields," she said to herself, looking at the data on her screen. "They work on a specific frequency, but human brainwaves can disrupt that frequency. No other species can do this." Elena had tested this theory dozens of times. When a human got close enough to Council technology and concentrated hard enough, the shields would flicker and sometimes fail completely. It was like humans had a natural ability that even they didn't know about. She picked up her secure phone and called Commander Ben Taylor, who was running operations from an asteroid base in the outer system. Ben had been a cargo pilot before, the Prohibited, but now he was the leader of the largest smuggling and resistance network in human space. "Elena, please tell me you have good news," Ben said when he answered. "I do. Meet me at the usual place tomorrow, and bring Jake Morrison if you can reach him." Jake had been different since his brother died. He still commanded the Defiance, but now he also worked with the Resistance, using his military ship to help move people and supplies without the government knowing. Most of Earth's leaders suspected what he was doing, but they looked the other way. The next day, the three of them met on a small space station that officially repaired mining equipment but actually served as a resistance meeting point. Elena showed them her research while Ben shared intelligence from his network of smugglers and spies. "We've established 17 hidden bases so far," Ben reported. "Asteroid fields, rogue planets, places where Council sensors can't find us. We're building new ships using human engineering combined with alien parts we've borrowed." Jake looked at the star charts Ben had spread out on the table. Red dots marked Council patrol routes, while blue dots showed human resistance bases. It was impressive, but it still looked small compared to the Council's massive empire. "It's a start," Jake said, "but we need allies. We can't fight the entire galaxy alone." That's when Elena smiled and pulled out another data pad. "We might not have to. I've been monitoring Council communications, and 3 days ago I got a message I wasn't expecting." She played back a recording of a strange musical voice speaking in heavily accented English. "Humans of Earth," the voice said. "We are the Novan. We have watched your situation with great interest. We would like to speak." Jake and Ben looked at each other in surprise. The Novan were one of the oldest species in the galaxy, known for being peaceful and wise. They had been part of the council for over 1,000 years. They want to meet, Elena continued, but they're being very careful. They think the council might be watching them too. The meeting was arranged for the following week on a small moon in neutral space. Jake took the Defiance there alone, telling his crew it was a routine patrol. When he arrived, he found a Novan ship waiting for him. It was beautiful, shaped like a flower made of silver metal. The Novan representative who met him was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large, kind eyes. She introduced herself as Counselor Vanna and spoke in that same musical voice from the recording. "Captain Morrison," she said, "what I'm about to tell you could be considered treason by the council, but my people believe the truth must be shared." What Vanna told Jake changed everything he thought he knew about the galaxy. The Galactic Council wasn't really about keeping peace between species. It was about keeping certain species from becoming too powerful. The Council has done this before, Vanna explained. 6 other species throughout history have been contained when they showed too much potential. The Drakmor were contained 800 years ago after they developed new weapons. The Synthians were contained 500 years ago for advancing too quickly in technology. The pattern is always the same. Jake felt his anger growing. So the council decides who gets to grow and who has to stay small. Exactly. And when containment doesn't work? Vanna paused, her expression sad. The Veltar were completely wiped, out 300 years ago. The council claimed it was a plague, but we know the truth. Jake realized what she was saying. They're planning to kill us all. We believe so. My people have been monitoring council communications. There are references to something called the final solution for the human problem. It will be implemented within 5 years, disguised as a natural disaster or disease outbreak. When Jake returned to the resistance base, he brought more than just information. Vanna had given him coordinates for secret supply drops and communication channels. The Novan couldn't openly oppose the council, but they would help the human resistance however they could. Ben immediately began planning raids on council supply convoys using the intelligence Vanna had provided. Elena started working on new weapons based on her shield disruption research, and Jake began the dangerous work of secretly recruiting other ship captains who were getting tired of following council orders. Their first major operation came 6 weeks later. A council research station in the Vega system was conducting experiments that Elena believed were related to the planned genocide. Jake led a team of 3 ships in a surprise attack while Ben's people created a distraction on the other side of the system. The raid was a complete success. They destroyed the research station and captured valuable data that proved Elena's theories were correct. The council had been studying human DNA and brain patterns, trying to find a way to eliminate humanity's unique abilities. But the most important discovery came from the station's computer core. Hidden in the deepest files was a list of the other contained species and their current locations. The Drakmor, the Synthians, and 4 others were all still alive, scattered across the galaxy, and kept weak by council restrictions. "We're not the only ones fighting this fight," Elena said as she studied the data. "There are others out there who want to be free." Jake looked at the list of species and their locations. "Then maybe it's time we introduced ourselves." Ben was already making plans. "My smugglers can make contact. It will take months to reach some of these systems, but we can do it." As Jake prepared to leave the base and return to his official duties, he thought about his brother Ryan and all the people who had died on the New Horizon. Their deaths hadn't been in vain if they led to this moment. The council thought they had. Humanity trapped and helpless. They thought they could plan genocide while humans sat quietly in their corner of space. But they had made a mistake. They had given humanity something to fight for, and now they had shown them they weren't fighting alone. The resistance was growing stronger every day. Soon, the council would learn that trying to contain humanity was like trying to hold back a star. Eventually, all that compressed energy would explode outward and nothing would be able to stop it. Jake smiled as he guided the Defiance back toward Earth. The real war was about to begin. President Amanda Stone stood before the United Earth Assembly, holding a datapad that contained proof of the Council's plan to destroy humanity. The time for secrets was over. Fellow citizens, she began, for 2 years we have tried diplomacy, while preparing for the worst. Today I can tell you that our worst fears have been confirmed. The Galactic Council plans to eliminate our species within 3 years. The assembly hall erupted in angry voices and shouted questions. Stone raised her hand for silence and continued. But we are not defenseless, and we are not alone. I hereby authorize our resistance forces to operate openly and begin formal contact with other species who have suffered under Council oppression. Admiral Lisa Carter immediately began the most dangerous diplomatic mission in human history. Using the intelligence gathered by Jake Morrison and the Novan contacts provided by Counselor Vanna, she sent encrypted messages to 6 other contained species scattered across the galaxy. The first responses were not encouraging. The Velnari had been contained for 600 years and were too afraid to even reply. The Kethmore sent back a message saying they preferred to stay hidden rather than risk Council retaliation, but then came a response that changed everything. Human leaders, the message began in rough but understandable English. This is General Vorthak of the Drakmor warrior clans. We have waited 800 years for someone brave enough to challenge the Council's tyranny. We accept your proposal for alliance. Jake Morrison was chosen to make first contact with the Drakmor. He took the Defiance to a meeting point deep in the asteroid fields of the Cygnus sector, where no Council ships ever patrolled. When he arrived, he found himself facing the largest warship he had ever seen. The Drakmor vessel was black as space and covered in weapon ports. It looked like it had been built for one purpose only: destroying enemies. When General Vorthak came aboard the Defiance, Jake understood why the Council had feared this species. Vorthak was 8 feet tall with gray skin like stone and eyes that glowed red in the dim light. His people looked like they had been carved from mountains and given life. But when he spoke, Jake heard intelligence and pain that went deeper than mere anger. For 8 centuries, my people have been forced to live on worthless worlds in the dark spaces between stars, Vorthak said. The Council took our best planets and gave them to their favored species. They said we were too violent, too dangerous to be trusted with advanced technology. Jake nodded. They said the same thing about us. Too aggressive, too unpredictable. But you have something we lost long ago, Vorthak continued. You have hope. You still believe you can win. We had given up until your message arrived. The Drakmor brought incredible military power to the Alliance, but they had been isolated for so long that their strategic thinking had become limited. They knew how to fight, but they had forgotten how to wage war across multiple star systems. We can teach you modern tactics, Jake offered, and you can teach us how to build ships that can survive Council weapons. Dr. Elena Rodriguez was fascinated by Drakmor technology when the first samples arrived at her lab. Their weapons could punch through Council shields, but they consumed enormous amounts of energy. Combined with her research on human neural disruption of alien systems, she began developing hybrid weapons that were both powerful and efficient. Meanwhile, Commander Ben Taylor's smuggling network had grown into something much larger. His ships were now making contact with resistance cells on dozens of worlds. The Synthians, a species that could merge organic bodies with technology, agreed to join the Alliance after Ben's people helped them rescue several thousand of their kind from Council labor camps. The Ethereals, a species with natural psychic abilities, had been contained because the Council feared they could influence other species' thoughts. They joined the Alliance but warned that the Council had psychic dampening technology that limited their powers. The Metamorphs were perhaps the most valuable allies. They could change their appearance to look like any other species, which made them perfect spies and infiltrators. They had been contained because the Council couldn't tell them apart from other species, which made their rigid caste system impossible to maintain. The first major meeting of what they now called the Liberation Coalition took place on Kepler 442b, the same world where the New Horizon had been heading when it was destroyed. It seemed fitting to hold their war council there. Jake stood in the temporary command center they had built on the planet's surface and looked around at the strangest gathering in galactic history. General Vorthak represented the Drakmor military might. Counselor Vanna spoke for the Novan Intelligence Network. The Synthian collective sent their best technical minds. The Ethereal Council provided strategic psychic support, and the Metamorph clans offered their infiltration expertise. Each of our species brings something unique to this fight, Jake addressed the group. But we need to coordinate our efforts if we're going to survive what's coming. The Coalition's first major victory came sooner than expected. Ben Taylor had discovered that the Council was operating a massive prison world called Tartarus Station, where they kept political prisoners from all the contained species. The station held over 2 million beings, including many leaders who had opposed Council rule. If we can free those prisoners, Elena suggested, we'll have experienced leaders for our rebellion, and proof that the Council isn't as peaceful as they claim. The rescue operation required all of the Coalition's abilities working together. Metamorph spies infiltrated the station and disabled its security systems. Ethereal psychics confused the guards and made them see empty corridors. Synthian hackers took control of the station's computers. Drakmor warriors provided the muscle to break through the prison's defenses. And human strategic planning coordinated the entire operation. Jake led the assault personally, commanding a fleet of ships from all 6 species. It was the first time in galactic history that so many different species had worked together as equals, rather than following Council hierarchy. The prison break was a complete success. Among the freed prisoners was Dr. Marcus Webb, a human scientist, who had been captured 5 years earlier while investigating ancient ruins. Webb had spent his time in prison working on theoretical weapons that could disable entire Council fleets. I've been thinking about this for years, Webb told Jake as they escaped from Tartarus Station. The Council's power comes from their control of ancient technology they don't really understand. But if we could turn that technology against them. As the rescued prisoners were distributed among Coalition worlds, Jake realized they had accomplished something the Council thought was impossible. 6 different species, all with different cultures and abilities, were working together toward a common goal. But their success had not gone unnoticed. Admiral Carter received intelligence reports that the Council was mobilizing their full military force. Commander Kethlar of the Zephyrian fleet had been given authority to use any means necessary to crush the rebellion. They're coming, Jake told the Coalition leaders during their next meeting. The Council isn't going to wait 3 years for their planned genocide. They're going to try to wipe us all out now. General Vorthak smiled, showing teeth like metal blades. Good. We have been preparing for this fight for 800 years. Let them come. Elena looked at her latest weapon designs and nodded. Our hybrid technology is ready. We can give them a fight they're not expecting. Ben's ships were already spreading the word to resistance cells across the galaxy. The secret war was about to become an open one, and for the first time in centuries, the Council would face an enemy that refused to stay contained. Jake thought about his brother Ryan and all the innocent people who had died because the Council wanted to maintain their power. Soon those deaths would be avenged. The Liberation Coalition was ready for war. The war began at dawn on a Tuesday when Council forces attacked the Coalition's main shipyard in the Vega system. Admiral Jake Morrison watched from the bridge of his new flagship, the Liberation, as hundreds of enemy ships dropped out of light, speed and began firing on the orbital construction platforms. All Coalition forces, this is Admiral Morrison. He broadcast on all frequencies. The Council has made their choice. Today we fight not just for our own freedom, but for every species that has ever been crushed under their rule. The enemy fleet was massive. 3,000 ships from 8 different Council species led by the crystal warships of the Zephyrians. Commander Kethlar himself was commanding the assault from his flagship, a ship so large it looked like a floating city. The Coalition had only 800 ships, but they were different from anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human engineering had been combined with Drakmor weapons, Synthian computers, and ethereal coordination systems. Each ship was operated by mixed crews from all the allied species. Enemy ships are targeting our construction yards, reported Lieutenant Sarah Kim from the tactical station. They want to destroy our ability to build more ships. Jake nodded. General Patricia Hayes, take your strike force and hit their left flank. Colonel Steve Murphy, bring your group around their right side. We'll hit them from 3 directions at once. The Coalition had learned that the Council's weakness was their rigid command structure. Each species in the Council fleet followed, orders from their own commanders, and those commanders only took orders from the Council leadership. When faced with unpredictable tactics, they became confused and slow to respond. The first major surprise came when Dr. Elena Rodriguez's new quantum disruptor weapons were fired for the first time in battle. Instead of normal energy beams, these weapons sent out waves that interfered with Council shield generators. Entire enemy ships suddenly found themselves defenseless. Direct hit on the Zephyrian cruiser, Sarah reported. Their shields are down. Drakmor Squadron, finish them off, Jake ordered. General Vorthak's warriors swooped in with their black warships and destroyed the helpless cruiser with their massive guns. The Council forces had never seen anything like it, but the enemy had advantages too. They controlled most of the galaxy's manufacturing centers and supply lines. For every Council ship the Coalition destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. After 6 hours of fighting, Jake's forces were running low on ammunition and fuel. "Admiral, we're getting reports from across the galaxy," Ben Taylor called from his communications post. "Council forces are attacking Coalition bases everywhere. They're trying to wipe us out completely." Jake made a difficult decision. "All ships fall back to the Crimson Nebula. We'll make our stand there." The Crimson Nebula was a massive cloud of gas and dust that interfered with sensors and communications. It was the perfect place to hide, but it was also a trap. Once the Coalition fleet was inside, the Council could surround them and finish them off. Admiral Lisa Carter was waiting for them when they arrived. She had gathered every available Coalition ship from across human space. Even some civilian vessels had joined them, armed with whatever weapons they could carry. "Jake, we have maybe 2 days before they find us in here," Carter said during their strategy meeting. "After that, we're finished." Dr. Marcus Webb, the scientist they had rescued from the prison world, stepped forward with a data pad in his hands. "Maybe not. I've been working on something that could change everything," Webb explained his new weapon design. It used the same quantum disruption technology that Elena had developed, but on a much larger scale. Instead of disabling one ship at a time, it could shut down an entire fleet's shields simultaneously. "The problem is power," Webb continued. "We need the energy output of at least 50 ships to make it work." Jake looked around at his exhausted commanders. They had been fighting for days without rest, and their forces were badly outnumbered. But this might be their only chance. He decided. "Whatever you need." The next day, Council forces found the Coalition fleet hiding in the Nebula. Commander Kethler brought 5,000 ships to finish what he had started. The Coalition had less than 1,000 ships left, and many of those were damaged. Coalition fleet, this is Commander Kethler, came the transmission from the enemy flagship. "You are surrounded and outnumbered 5-1. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick." Jake opened a channel to reply. "This is Admiral Morrison of the Liberation Coalition. We have a counteroffer. Leave our space now and we won't destroy your entire fleet." Kethler's laughter echoed across all frequencies. "Impossible, human. You are about to learn why the Council has ruled this galaxy for millennia." The battle that followed became known as the Battle of the Crimson Nebula. Council forces attacked from all sides, confident that their superior numbers would quickly overwhelm the rebels. For the first hour, it looked like they were right. Coalition ships were being destroyed faster than they could be replaced. Jake watched his tactical display as friendly contacts disappeared one by one. They were losing badly. "Webb, how much longer?" Jake called out. 30 seconds, the scientist replied from his position at the weapons console. 20 Coalition ships had been destroyed in those 30 seconds. Jake was beginning to think they had waited too long. Then Webb activated his quantum disruptor array. The effect was immediate and spectacular. Every Council ship within 1,000 kilometers suddenly lost their shields at the same time. Their weapons stopped working. Their engines failed. 5,000 warships became floating targets in less than a minute. "All ships open fire," Jake ordered. The Coalition fleet unleashed everything they had. Drakmor weapons that could punch through armor like paper. Synthian smart missiles that could track multiple targets. Human tactical coordination that picked the most effective targets. The Council forces were helpless. In 30 minutes, Jake's outnumbered fleet destroyed half of the enemy armada. The rest tried to retreat, but many of their ships couldn't even move without power to their engines. Commander Kethlar's flagship was one of the few vessels that escaped the initial attack. Jake watched as the crystal ship tried to flee deeper into Council space. But before it could jump to light speed, something unexpected happened. The ship's quantum disruptor wave had reached other Council vessels throughout the sector. Across them, 50 star systems, Council ships suddenly found themselves defenseless. Local resistance groups that had been hiding for years suddenly attacked their oppressors. "Admiral, we're getting reports from everywhere," Sarah announced excitedly. "The disruption wave is spreading across the galaxy. Council forces are under attack on hundreds of worlds." Jake realized what had happened. Webb's weapon hadn't just disabled the Council fleet in the Nebula. It had created a chain reaction that was spreading through the Council's own communication network, disabling their ships everywhere. But the victory came at a terrible cost. During the final assault on Kethlar's flagship, General Patricia Hayes had led a boarding party to capture the enemy commander. Her ship was destroyed when the Zephyrian vessel's power core exploded. She died saving the lives of thousands of Coalition troops. As Jake stood in the Liberation's Memorial Hall, looking at Patricia's photograph next to hundreds of other heroes who had died for freedom, he received an urgent message from Dr. Rodriguez. "Jake, you need to see this." Elena's voice was excited but worried. "I've been analyzing the data from the quantum disruptor. The weapon worked better than we expected, but it also did something else. It sent out a signal that reached the galactic core." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "What kind of signal?" "I think we just woke something up," Elena replied. "Something that's been sleeping at the center of the galaxy for a very long time." As Jake looked out at the stars, he wondered if the Coalition's greatest victory might have just created an even bigger problem. But for now, the Council's grip on the galaxy was broken. Species across hundreds of worlds were rising up against their oppressors. The war was far from over, but for the first time Jake believed they could actually win. The Council had learned that trying to contain humanity and its allies was like trying to hold back the tide. Eventually, the water would find a way through any barrier, and when it did, nothing would ever be the same again. 6 months after the Battle of the Crimson Nebula, Admiral Jake Morrison was declared dead. His ship had been destroyed during a dangerous mission to infiltrate the Council's capital world of Zentari Prime. The entire galaxy mourned the loss of the man who had united so many species against tyranny. But Jake Morrison was not dead. He woke up in a place that seemed impossible. The walls around him were made of pure light, shifting and flowing like liquid crystal. Strange symbols floated in the air, and he could hear music that seemed to come from the very fabric of space itself. "Do not be afraid, Admiral Morrison," said a voice that spoke directly into his mind. "You are safe." A figure appeared before him, tall and graceful with skin that sparkled like stars. Jake had never seen anything like this being before, but somehow he knew exactly what it was. "You're one of the ancients," Jake said. "The species that built all the old technology the Council uses." "We are indeed," the ancient replied. "My name is Keeper Zale. We have been watching your species with great interest. Humanity has passed a test that we set in motion long ago," Zale explained that the ancients had not disappeared as everyone believed. They had moved beyond normal space and time, watching the galaxy from hidden dimensions. For millions of years, they had been waiting for a species worthy of inheriting their technology and their responsibility. "The Galactic Council was our test," Zale continued. "We gave them enough of our technology to rule the galaxy, but not enough to truly understand it. We wanted to see if any species would be brave enough to challenge their authority." Jake felt anger rising in his chest. "You let them oppress entire civilizations just to test us?" "The suffering was real, and we regret that," Zale admitted. "But we had to know if any species could unite others rather than simply conquer them. Humanity is the first to pass this test." Dr. Elena Rodriguez was working in her laboratory when she received an impossible message. It came through quantum channels that shouldn't have existed, telling her to come to specific coordinates in the galactic core. The message was signed by Jake Morrison. Elena took her fastest ship and raced toward the coordinates. When she arrived, she found herself facing a structure that defied all known physics. It was a space station the size of a planet, built from materials that seemed to bend light around them. Inside, she found Jake alive and well, standing next to beings of incredible beauty and power. The ancients welcomed her as they had welcomed Jake, and began sharing secrets that changed everything she thought she knew about the universe. "Your human brain patterns are uniquely compatible with our quantum computers," explained Keeper Zale. "You can interface directly with technology that other species cannot even understand." Elena watched in amazement as Jake demonstrated his new abilities. By simply thinking about it, he could control ancient machines that were millions of years old. Doors opened for him, computers responded to his thoughts, and energy flowed through conduits at his command. This is why the Council feared humanity, Elena realized. Not because we were aggressive, but because we could do this. The ancients began sharing their technology with the Liberation Coalition, but they made it clear that humans would be the primary operators. Other species could learn to use ancient devices, but only humans could truly master them. Meanwhile, the war was reaching its final stage. Commander Kethalar had retreated to the galactic core with the last of his forces, determined to make one final stand. He had discovered an ancient weapon of incredible power, something that could destroy entire star systems. Ben Taylor, now commanding the Coalition fleet in Jake's absence, received urgent warnings from resistance fighters throughout the galaxy. Council forces were preparing something terrible at the galactic core. "They're going to try to destroy us all," Ben reported during an emergency meeting. "Even if it means wiping out half the galaxy in the process." When Jake and Elena returned from their meeting with the ancients, they brought with them technology that could counter the Council's desperate plan, but it would require a direct assault on the galactic core itself, the most dangerous region of space. The final battle took place among the ancient ruins that surrounded the galaxy's central black hole. Kethalar had positioned his remaining forces around a massive ancient construct that pulsed with deadly energy. "Coalition fleet, this is your last warning," Kethalar broadcast to Jake's approaching ships. "I have activated the core destroyer. In 1 hour, it will eliminate every inhabited system within 10,000 light-years. Your rebellion ends here." Jake looked at the ancient weapon through his ship's view screen. It was beautiful and terrible, a spiral of pure energy that could indeed destroy countless worlds. But now he understood how it worked and, more importantly, how to stop it. "All ships stay back," Jake ordered. "Elena and I will handle this." Using their new abilities, Jake and Elena interfaced directly with the ancient systems. The core destroyer was designed to respond only to authorized users, and the ancients had just given humanity that authorization. Instead of destroying inhabited worlds, Jake turned the weapon against Kethalar's fleet. The energy that was meant to commit genocide instead vaporized the last of the Council's military forces in seconds. But Kethalar was not finished. In a final act of spite, he tried to overload the weapon and destroy the galactic core itself. The explosion would create a chain reaction that would tear apart the galaxy's spiral arms and kill trillions of innocent beings. General Patricia Hayes was supposed to have led the mission to stop him, but she had died at the Crimson Nebula. Instead, it was Colonel Steve Murphy who volunteered for the suicide mission to manually shut down the overloading weapon. "Tell my family I did this for them," Murphy said as he flew his ship directly into the heart of the ancient construct. His sacrifice saved not just the Coalition, but every living being in the galaxy. The weapon shut down safely, and Kethalar's forces were finally defeated. 5 years later, Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Federation Unity, the flagship of the new Galactic Federation. The old council had been dissolved and replaced with a democratic alliance where every species had an equal voice. The former council species had been welcomed back as equals after trials for their leaders' crimes. Most of their people had been as much victims of the system as anyone else. Even some Zephyrians now served in the Federation fleet, working alongside humans and former rebels. Dr. Elena Rodriguez had become the head of the Galactic Science Council, leading joint expeditions to explore ancient ruins throughout the galaxy. Each discovery brought new wonders and new technologies that benefited all species. Ben Taylor ran the Federation's merchant fleet, ensuring that trade flowed freely between worlds that had been separated by council restrictions for centuries. His former smugglers were now legitimate traders, carrying goods and ideas to every corner of the galaxy. As Jake watched his mixed crew of humans and aliens working together on the bridge, he thought about his brother Ryan and all the others who had died to make this moment possible. They had wanted to explore the stars and make friends with alien species. Now their dream was reality. "Admiral, we're receiving a signal from the Outer Rim," reported his communications officer, a young Novan named Talar. "A new species has been discovered. They're asking to join the Federation." Jake smiled. "Set course for their system. Let's go welcome our new friends to the galaxy." The ship turned toward the unknown, ready to explore new worlds and meet new civilizations. The Council had tried to contain humanity's potential, but in doing so they had forged it into something far greater than it could have become alone. Humanity had become the galaxy's beacon of hope, proving that freedom and cooperation were stronger than fear and oppression. And among the stars, their greatest adventures were just beginning.